Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here.
And I'm Pinkie Pie here. We are back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, of course.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Super Mario Party in the Challenge mode on the Nintendo Switch. So, previously, yesterday, we did manage to completely done with the first two worlds, which is essentially Shell Street, and especially noticeable with the Chestnut Forest. And now we're going to be, today for this video, is the fact that we are now going to be hit on to World 3 and possibly World 4 after this. So even then though, looks like we're actually on the halfway point on the normal challenge mode. So even then though, you probably get the idea we're going to be going through like few sets of more mini-games here and there. So even then though, some of these mini-games were able to become extremely easier, like for instance Smash and Crab, that basically we need to just beat the team of one, and that's pretty much all there is to say. So even then though, but until when it gets to the point until later on though, on the other hand though, that we might actually switch things around. So even then though, you probably get the idea for the solution. So you're not much else to really say about this for the most part though. So even then though, that we're actually getting quite close towards the end of I would say for this matter though, that as far as we're definitely already mentioned about this before, since you know Yoshi's Woolly World, and especially noticeable with Super Mario Galaxy 2 Let's Plays, that obviously this will still be finished until at the very end of this month in particular. So yeah, because I cannot even believe, despite the fact that it's been such a quite a few weeks delay between any forms of in June at some point, that it's a good thing we did manage to save the another set of Super Mario Party videos up and during the likes of in this month in general. So even then though, you probably get the idea. So alright, so let's see what we got here. So obviously in this particular mission, as far as the actual minigame itself, we need to go up to 10 points. But then until whenever we get to later on, and as far as the actual challenge road is concerning, well, as far as we're probably not going to mention about this right about now, because even then though, we haven't got to that point yet. So even then though, we'll just go aim for 10 points, and that's all you really have to think of. So, in even then though, it doesn't matter if we're able to, like, lose the minigame or anything like that, so you have to, like, you know, aim for a certain amount of points as far as you can continue progression. So, even then though, self-explanatory, and, you know, you generally get the idea for that part, so. And of course, like any forms of how it does it on Mario Party Minigame Island, and especially noticeable with the top 100 version of Minigame Island as well, that you can able to actually hit back into the previous minigames you want to replay through and all that stuff. So even then though, because unlike in Mario Party 2 and Minigame Coaster, well, you have to do in a continuous non-stop minigames department, because you can't able to go back, because it's obviously because you know how minecarts are always autopilot for any sorts. So even then you probably get the idea. Alright, so the next minigame here is Feeding Frenzy, and in this one we need to get about, I would say, 35 points. So but I will admit though right away is that this minigame wasn't exactly perfect by any means, because there are a few times though that some of our motion control skills wasn't exactly particularly accurate about it, because I wish there was an option that you can able to actually like throw it normally by just, you know, flicking the actual Joy-Con downwards, and then if you hold down the A button you can able to throw it upwards. So, but unfortunately for that specific stimulation, it's always a thing where basically that, just like in Social Climbers, is that we need to hold down the depends on what trigger buttons you be using, either the L button or the I button, in order to actually make it work. So even then, you probably get the idea for that. So, alright, so we got ourselves even more Mario Party points there. So even then, let's move on to Rowboat Uprising. So even then, once again, beat the actual rival team. So even then, conveniently enough, we're actually teaming up with Princess Peach. It's like a princess duos right there. So even then, because, you know, I get a strong feeling that we might actually get ourselves a pretty rubbish start, because obviously the other team just managed to able to actually get ourselves a pretty good start, so I'm guessing they must have beat us so instantly. Yeah, but as far as I've noticed that, because we have a sluggish start. But whatever though, because even then that again, you don't have to worry about the you know, the actual life system, because every time you like lose the minigame, you can able to retry them at any time. So even then though, that's as far as I can say about it. So anyways, now another thing we would like to explain about this actually is the fact that recently we've now actually got ourselves the forms of the original Xbox version of Crash Nitro Kart at long last. And even then though, that's thankfully though, that particular item doesn't go completely rigged by any means now, which has always been a good thing, because even then though, I remember back in March, that particular postage that we did manage to order it back in March, that we just got completely wrecked by that time. So even now, I don't suppose we've actually mentioned about that during the likes of in the actual Mario Party mode of this game or something, but even then though, that's as far as we can consider this to be going for here. So, Mouths of Glory, and in this one we need to destroy the castle within a certain amount of rounds. So even then though, for instance, we need to destroy the rival's castle within 3 rounds. And if you don't able to destroy that in time, well, basically, that, if you don't destroy it completely, well, what happens is, though, is the fact that, the mission will automatically fail. So you have to destroy, someone else's, castle right there, so... Yeah, that's as far as we can able to think about this for the time being. So even then, though, let's just go ahead and, get ourselves the... okay, 20, that's fine, because even then, though, we've only got, 5 more left. So even then, though, that's as far as we can able to consider that, so... At least on the other hand though, our teammate is actually doing pretty good. Well, at least for Pom Pom anyway though. And in fact, it doesn't really matter because we did manage to conquer everything. So, yeah, look at that other team right there. They're doing pretty sluggish at the time. Yeah, especially noticeable how the fact that it doesn't do that much damage at the circumstances though anyway. Yeah, which is probably true for that stipulations though. So even then, if we've played you know, Crash Nitro Kart on the original Xbox after playing through Crash Team Racing on the original the original PlayStation, sorry, and especially noticeable with Crash Team Racing Nitro Field, which is a remake of some sort of a combination of both Team Racing and Nitro Kart at the same time. I've always played Nitro Kart. It's pretty okay. I mean, pretty good, I'll give it that. Not as perfect as the forms of Team Racing, I'm afraid, because obviously the graphics themselves, it's alright I suppose, but even then though, that compared to Team Racing on the original PlayStation, that it wasn't nearly as perfect as that game was. So even then though, Crash Nitro Kart was actually a pretty good game. Not the best, but hey, at least it's way better than the forms of that terrible Crash Tag Team Racing, because it feels utterly broken with all this cooperative aspects. Even though I'll give Mario Kart Arcade GP DX some credit for, they did at least manage to able to actually add in, you know, with the forms of the actual team kart aspect, which you have to able to let 2 players to able to actually access that specific ability, and in that way you can able to actually utilize the actual Cards Fusion. So even then though, that's as far as I can go for this point, but only for a limited amount of time, as opposed to like at all times in the tag team racing for Crash. So, and plus I found it's very unnecessary with the actual hub worlds, to be honest with you guys, because even then I wasn't really too fond of the actual hub world in that particular Crash tag team racing. I'd much rather prefer, you know, going to menu syndrome. You know, it's kind of like the same thing for how it does, although it doesn't bother me as much in this game in particular, because you can simply just either just walk around and then just simply just go close to the actual like TV monitor and stuff, and especially noticeable in Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games also, that you know, it one thing I should probably mention about this at this point, although actually, I will mention more on that whenever we get to the third part in Challenge Mode until next weekend. Because even then, though, that obviously we need to be able to actually finish this Let's Play until at the very end of this month, as I said this countless amount of times. Yeah, which is probably true for this little thing is happening, though. So even then, though, that hey, at least we managed to completely done with Peep Relay right here. Alright, so let's move on, and it looks like almost there. Yes, thank you, Spike, for able to tell us that. Oh no, I dreaded this minigame so much. If only because of the strict timing aspect with this minigame though, but even then though, this time, we need to deal with the challenge mode aspect. So even then though, in this particular objective is very simple, we need to simply beat the rival team, and that's all you have to really do in this minigame. So, but then again, we've already complained about this ever since during the past few videos ago about the actual, like, how strict the timing aspect this is. So even then, we'll do this as in the first attempt I was hoping for. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump over for this little rolls right there. And again, you can't really tell what's gonna come up. So even I know that. Oh, see, really? I did manage to do this slightly too late, and then also just a little bit too early. So, but on the other hand, though, luckily for Monty Mole, we did manage to win this. So even then, though, thank you, Monty Mole. You really do appreciate it. Alright, so next up, I believe, it was actually, Luke Sharp. And basically, in this one, we need to get up to, like, 10 points. Oh, no, 13 points, sorry. And, until later on, though, that, we do need to get the perfect amount of points, which is specifically 15 points, which, we'll get to that whenever we get to it. And it's especially noticeable how the fact that once we're done with, the normal challenge road, that, there was actually the second run-through of Challenge Road, which is considerably much like the normal mode, but except the fact that it's a little bit more harder than the forms of how it does it on normal challenges. But then, as a result of this kind of stuff too, is the fact that, excuse me, I just ate some chili dogs. I do apologize for that. Basically, that we'll do ourselves the post-commentary rather than just a regular commentary for that specific second playthrough of this particular mode, which again, we're not going to explain things too much because even then though that's it might be a little bit too early to decide. So obviously, if you couldn't see on screen, we are actually playing as Daisy for the first time in Super Mario Party. So even then though, because we are like able to actually play as every single playable characters in you know, Super Mario Party. In fact, that, I suppose we actually mentioned about this before, that, for the actual first run-through of, Challenge Road, we're most likely going to be focusing on some of these playable characters that are considerably the heroes, because until the second run-through of, Challenge Road, we'll switch things up by that time. So even then, though, because of that, though, we'll mention more on that until by that time. So even then, though, next we have is net worth, and basically we need to aim for at least 80 points in order to pass. So yeah, that's as far as I can say with this this particular challenge, as far as I can tell for this part. So yeah, when it comes to any other stuff I'd like to mention is the fact that when it comes to like other Let's Plays we are hoping we can able to do, like for instance, for example, Knight's Journey of Dreams, which Blossom needs to be able to actually get back into that particular Let's Play of that particular YouTube channel at this point. Unfortunately, though, that that particular Let's Play will be delayed until 2020, just because obviously we need to be able to focusing on, you know, certain Let's Plays we are most likely going to be focusing on, because until in 2020, that we'll switch things up with the actual different conditions with all this uploading schedules by this point. So even then though, because we'll mention more on that until at the very end of 2019 itself. Alright, so in this minigame here, just get the, it doesn't matter which eels you're going to be getting, so even then though, you can either, you know, you need to do this within 5 seconds. So if you don't even to do that for 5 seconds, well, basically you have to retry this mission again. So even then though, but again, it doesn't really matter which one you caught. So even then though, that's as far as pretty simple self-explanatory stuff, basically. So, and now we move on to the last minigame in the third world in Mushroom Beach of any sort, which is the name of the world. And basically, we need to have a one-on-one battle in, well, Soak and Croak. So even then though, and basically we need to be able to compete against with Bowser Jr. So, anyways though, so let's go ahead and, oh, really? We don't have the invincibility frames after getting, you know, flown back from that specific water fountain right there. That's pretty unfair. But oh well though, we'll try that again. So even then though, because of that though, we can, you know, just, you know, continue our progression's sake. And another thing is worth mentioning though is the fact that when it comes to everything else for the actual Let's Plays, even for redo Let's Plays entirely, is the fact that, well, unfortunately for Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix though, for the actual Let's Play of the game, it will be, you know, some sort of a hold-up delay, although it still will be hosted until 2020, but, we don't know exactly when it's gonna come out, though, per se, because of how the fact that we're gonna be focusing on, you know, current Let's Plays that we are still currently doing, and especially noticeable with how the fact that with, you know, some other parts and stuff. So yeah, you probably get the idea for this particular point right there. So now, as you can see, we actually now switch over to a different playable character now, and this time we have Rosalina in Ghostly Hollow. So even then though, this is where the actual challenges itself can get pretty tricky and difficult by, you know, different conditions and all that stuff. So first of all, we're going to be hit on to barreling along, and basically in this one we need to able to get to finish, or in this case get first place, without even getting touched by the water. So if you dare touch the water, then that's how the mission fails. You know, it's kind of like the same thing for how it does it in that, one of those mission objectives you're doing in, Warrior Land's The Shake Dimension, where basically, or Warrior Wish, or Warrior Land Shake It, if you will. Basically, that, in one of those missions, that it does, well, in one of those missions tell you that you can't afford to able to actually get into the water in some of these water levels. So even then though, like, I'm pretty sure it's one in the first world, and especially noticeable in World 4 and all that stuff. Alright, so here we go with the next minigame right here. Oh, this is gonna be pretty tricky sometimes, especially if you do not even know what the team of one is gonna be picking the actual question. So even then though, let's see, how many toes did you see? Of course, it's pretty obvious, it's 4 over there, and I just realized we have ourselves a trios of princesses, so yeah, that's pretty interesting, because we have Princess Peach, Princess Daisy, and we are playing as Rosalina, so yeah, it seems pretty interesting though, so even then though, that's, yeah, you probably get the idea for that. Alright, so since we actually did manage to get that, answer correct, so even then though, let's move on to the next question. Well, this could be pretty tricky though, fundamentally though, but we'll see what happens there. Alright, so how many Koopa Paratroopers did you say? I'm guessing it will be 6, because obviously I can definitely tell there are some things as far as I can see for that particular screen as far as I'm most likely aware of. But looks like I get a strong feeling that Daisy might actually get out, so speaking of Daisy, she's gone out. So I guess it's up to, like, us, especially with Princess Peach, to able to survive the last, question. So far so good anyway, though. But, the first 2 questions are very easy, but the third and final one, we're always having a hard time on it, because, well, I think it's most likely because there's actually too much stuff on screen. So even then, though that's to be deserved to be the case, I guess we might as well able to go for 8, I believe, but we'll, divide it into 2, so even though it looks like Peach is going for 9, but again, it doesn't really matter if Peach managed to able to survive for this, because if we somehow got, out of it though, even though we accidentally just select the wrong mission, but, well, in this case the wrong answer, but it doesn't matter though, because even then though, that's, you know, the team of 3 actually wins this instantly, so even then though, kudos to you, Peach, I'll give you some credit for that. Alright, so next up we have is another team-based minigame. We now have Fruit Forecast. And in this one, we need to aim for 75 points. So, and obviously we're going to be teaming up with Yoshi, because obviously he loves fruit so much. So, yeah, because you remember from Yoshi's story and all that stuff. So even though that probably explains why he always loves fruit so much. Even especially noticeable in, you know, when it comes to Super Mario Sunshine and all that stuff. So, yeah, you probably get the idea about this particular stimulations and all that stuff. So, I suppose another thing we could explain about this potentially is the fact that, to be honest with you, I have no explanations for it, because even then though, well, at least I'll explain about this right about now, that I suppose what definitely already mentioned about this since in Yoshi's Woolly World Let's Play so far. Basically he did say about the fact that Sonic might actually come back onto the forms of an NES Remix 2 Let's Play and during at some point in next Tuesday, and especially noticeable next Thursday. So because of this though, you know, we just want to able to get these Let's Plays done before 2020 arises. So even though, exponentially speaking, with a couple of new Let's Plays as well, including some of these other remake Let's Plays for that particular matter with the better quality and everything. Like, for instance, you know, we're about to be doing a redo Let's Play of Pac-Man World 2 until next year, though, but it wasn't until when Definitely needs to finish up with Pac-Man World 2 first. Oh, shoot! I wasn't paying attention to that specific door right here.
Yeah, this minigame is actually pretty tricky if you manage to able to keep your eyes open for that specific majority dolls, as you can see right there. So this will actually take me a lot of tries to able to actually bypass this minigame though, even because of how the fact that, well, at least if it slows down in the beginning, it should be okay, but until later on though, it gets ridiculously fast. Like, almost as fast as the, you know, shell game from Mario Party 1. At least I found the shell game in Mario Party 1 is actually very simple and easy to follow. And especially noticeable with, well, I do find the actual, stars in the hats thing is actually a little bit tricky in Mario Party 6 in, Fair Square. So, even then, once again, we did lost on that one, because even then, we actually lose sight on that specific, you know, doll, if you couldn't tell. So, even then, we'll, try this for a third time's a charm, but this time around, hopefully for the better for the win. So, well, I just realized Bowser managed to come back, and now the Hammer Bro has been replaced, well, usually I think, no, I believe it was actually, Luigi's been replaced as Diddy Kong this time, so not only why that most of these, opponents managed to keep on getting themselves a little bit of a shuffleware, so definitely the ones on the far left this time, so even then, I think we actually got this now. And let's see, and yep, we did pass it, so even then, there we go, now we can able to continue. But until later on though, anyway, though, until like, the second run through of, you know, Challenge Road in particular, oh man, it will get a little bit crazy around here, so don't look. Of course, you always don't look at any point. So, anyways, Bumper Brawl. So even then though, let's see how well we can be able to do this. So, obviously just, you know, beat your rivals, and that's all you have to really do in this particular challenge right here. So, let's see how this goes, basically, and then hopefully we're not gonna get knocked over by any second or two. Oh, no, 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 no. What? Does that mean it almost feels very similar to Super Smash Bros., where basically if you manage to fluke all the way up, it also counts as knockouts? Seriously? Yeah, I was thinking about that too, Pinkie Pie. I was thinking about the same thing, and oh, okay, so looks like Bowser, it looks like he's a part of our team. They managed to help us for once. So thank you, Bowser, for able to actually let us continue things on. Yeah, at least I'll give it some credit for that particular part right there. Flunder on the Hoof. So basically in this one we need to go for 130 points at minimum. But then again, the timing on this is a little bit more accurate if you're really trying to aim for that specific, you know, circle outline, if you couldn't tell right there, so. But anyways though, so once you get the timing going, then you were able to deal with this no problem. So even then though, you probably get the idea for that specific stimulation right here, so. Alright, so. Alright, just the last few spots there. Sometimes we always attempt to able to go for a slight of a timing early, but even then though, we should be okay. Yeah, but until later on though, it gets a little bit more slightly tricky, but even then though, not as much as, you know, from anything else for that part. Alright, so next up is, follow the money, and basically in this one we need to gather about 20 of those coins, without even getting, falling, or in this case, without falling, or in this case, getting hit. So it's a bit like how I did on, you know, in Sky Jinx minigame from, Mario Party 9 in, perspective mode, where basically in that particular version of, Sky Jinx is the fact that you need to be able to get to the very end of the actual minigame without even falling off at least once. So it's kind of like the same thing for here, but except the fact that there was no platforms this time. So even then, it's just that you have to go in some sort of a very simple, straightforward little path right here. But if you keep yourselves a little way to the back, you should be able to actually get yourselves a whole bunch of coins so super easily. So even then though, chances are you might as well be able to actually do it that way. So even then though, it's a pretty easier way to do it. But anyways, so next up is Fetch Quest, where we need to be able to beat this minigame for about 40 seconds. So even then though, hopefully we can be able to get this in time. So even then though, that you know, you probably get the idea for that part. So I think what we're gonna do is the fact that we're able to actually activate and hold the actual switch for a certain amount of few seconds after when some of these players already managed to able to gather these crystals they're able to obtain from. So it looks like Luigi might actually go after the last gem or the last crystal, I'm presuming. And chances are we actually accomplished that. So yeah, it looks like the actual computer players, well, it doesn't seem like that much of the actual, like, weakness or anything like that on, during the team-based games, because even then though, in the actual team-based games, they always knew what they're gonna do right here, especially because, well, they always know what they're doing. Alright, so next up we have is, I think it's Darts Gallery, and basically this one is the fact that we need to, well, beat the Rivals team. So even then though, that's, basically, that, you know, it's kind of like the same thing for Bomb Bomb Barrage on Mario Party 2, but except rather than just tossing bombs, it's now darts. So, but then again, if you let the actual opponents run out of those darts, then that's how you win a minigame. Even for the actual challenge as a result for that specific part right there. So, yeah, it looks like we're almost nearly towards the end of Ghostly Hollow, so even then though, let's hurry. Yeah, we'll just have to get out of here because it looks like it's almost like a ghostly, spooky place around here. It always reminds me of the Everfree Forest for some reason, but not as many of those little deadliest beasts of them all, like cockatrices or especially noticeable with like a Hydra. Even though surprisingly enough, the Hydra only appears in one particular episode so far. In My Little Pony Friendship is Magic so far, which is in Season 1. Yeah, and after that, we're never gonna see the Hydra ever again. So it's like, really? Okay then, so even then, at least we already get the idea for that. So speaking of that particular show, Sonic, is the fact that, I don't suppose if you do notice, is the fact that, once again, they, depends on what countries you lived in, they always attempt to able to once again manage to make the episodes release significantly early than the forms of how it does it on the English version again.
Yeah, I know, Pinkie Pie, because this is getting ridiculous now with all this, you know, the latest episodes in Season 9 is already up on, during the actual other region from, aside from, our country. So even then though, chances are that it might actually contains a lot of spoiled heavy when it comes to like, if those of you lived in like America and stuff, then obviously Chinese version might actually releasing a little bit more earlier than the forms of how it does it on the usual country they lived in. Well, usually it's hard to explain. So even then though, that chances are we're probably not gonna watch it just yet until the actual full English version might actually come out, and during that I would say in the second half, and even the final half of, you know, in the finale season is going to be on, August the 3rd. So even then, though, that, hopefully we can able to watch that during that time. And talking of which, is the fact that once again, that, we did manage to see, you know, some of these episodes, managed to able to get uploaded on YouTube on, specifically for the Chinese, you know, version of that particular episode, despite the fact that the actual text is in Chinese and stuff. But what I've noticed is that the actual every single voices is all in English, so at least we did manage to watch one episode, and that's about it. But we're not gonna mention about this too much because it contains like some spoiled elements for those of you are in America or the United Kingdom. Then obviously they'll just like easily get spoiled from outside of like different regions and stuff. But even then, we're still looking forward to it though. But it's just that, well, usually as far as I can tell about the fact that most of the like it kind of does the same thing for you know, in Nickelodeon on the different country in Season 8. Yeah, it's kind of like that from about a year ago. But now it's Chinese version, but on Season 9 finale this time. So at least even then though, that well, it makes it a little bit more, yeah. And one thing I should probably noting for is the fact that, well, unfortunately those episodes of the Chinese version will not be around here anymore because once again, the Hasbro Studios LLC copyright claims is still striking again. And as a result though, this is getting ridiculous now. I get it because of how the fact that with some of these copyright claims on certain parts, but it's just as kind of unfortunate for those of you who weren't able to see those episodes in theory. But unfortunately though, just because of once again the Hudson Soft, oh no, not the Hudson Soft, the Hasbro Studios managed to able to actually get ourselves a little bit of a copyright claims again, which I'm guessing this will be the last, the final time that this will ever happen.
well, specifically for this year alone, because until by that time, that, you know, until next year, I don't know what they're gonna do for next year per se, but we'll find out at some point or another. Alright, so next is Hammer and Sikkim. So even though basically we need to beat the rival team, so even though that is very simple, self-explanatory for the most part though. But of course you need to watch out for most of these players crowded on that particular point right there, because if you somehow get popped, well, you need to retry that minigame again. So, and of course we have ourselves the last minigame on this particular world we have is the Wake Wiggler, in this case the luck-based minigame of the bunch. Well, it's not so much luck-based, but it's just that you need to keep an eye out with that specific, you know, Z represents sleeping for Wiggler. And of course, it's always Waluigi that's always there, because I'm pretty sure if you manage to play as Waluigi on that specific world, basically the actual players might actually change around slightly, but even then, we haven't really demonstrated for ourselves, you see. So even then, we'll just go ahead and just, you know, stroke Wiggler's head at some form or another, and basically we can able to actually just be very careful right here, because even though if we get screwed over, not only does it able to kick us out of the minigame, but it's also the fact that, well, you'll lose points instantly if you manage to wake Wiggler up. And it's also a lot trickier this time around though, because if you used to with all 4 players join in, well, we now need to cooperate with, we need to now cope with our 2 players round. So even then, it's kind of like the same thing for how it does it on, in one of those luck-based minigames in Mario Party 9, which is the one in King Baba minigame, where basically if you have 2 players, they do some sort of a different rules mechanic. But even then though, yep, Waluigi got screwed over right there, so... And I think that pretty much does it for World 4, in this case, Ghostly Hollow. So even then though, I guess we're ending ourselves for this point here, so... Yeah, join us in the next weekend of Let's Play of Super Mario Party, is that I believe we're now going to be hopping on to World 5, and especially noticeable on the final world in New Forms of In Challenge Road. And hopefully, we get ourselves the 5th and the final gem in the process. So see you guys in the next weekend. Later, fellas.